You woke up today wearing a heavy, rusted iron suit of armor that you painstakingly forged years ago, piece by piece, mistake by mistake, wondering why you are bone-tired and gasping for air before you even push the heavy covers off your bed. The alarm rings. It is a harsh, synthetic shriek in the dark. In that microscopic split second between sleep and waking, you are completely free. But then, the crushing memory of who you are rushes back in like cold water filling a sinking ship. The memory of your failures. The memory of your endless, unfinished tasks. The memory of every single time you looked in the mirror, promised yourself you would change, and ultimately didn't. You drag this dead, suffocating weight into the shower, into the kitchen, and into your chaotic commute. You suffer under the delusion that your personal history is an unbreakable contract, a permanent, binding record written in indelible ink. It feels exactly like dragging a massive, rusted iron anchor across a dark, freezing ocean floor, feeling the thick metal catch and violently jerk on every jagged shipwreck of a past mistake, every broken promise you ever made to yourself. The heavy chain is pulled tight around your ribs, restricting your lungs, making every small step forward require a monumental, agonizing effort of sheer will. Your brain does this to you because of a dangerous, highly toxic mixture of the sunk cost fallacy and the rigid calcification of your neuroplasticity. Your nervous system strongly favors the familiar, even if that familiar state is slowly, quietly killing you. To the primitive parts of your brain, it is entirely safer to be predictably miserable than unpredictably free. Your mind wires itself over years to expect the massive weight of that anchor, and so it artificially generates the profound feeling of fatigue before you even begin to pull. You think the answer is to hustle harder, to drink more caffeine, to force yourself to become a hyper-optimized version of this tired, burdened person. But you do not need to improve yourself. You need to entirely delete who you were yesterday. This tragic illusion of continuity, this parasitic lie that you must carry the unbroken, linear narrative of your past, infects every single corner of your daily life. It slowly drains your vitality until nothing remains but apathy. It begins with your work. You sit down at your desk to start a new project, or perhaps simply to answer a mundane email, and you unconsciously carry the invisible, heavy fatigue of every previous failure into this new, innocent moment. The screen glares back at you, cold and demanding. Your fingers hover over the keyboard, but they feel like they are submerged in thick, wet concrete. It feels like trying to paint a bright, vibrant masterpiece on a fragile canvas that is already soaked and stained black with old ink. The canvas isn't just stained, it is rotting. You scrape and you scrub with your stiff bristles, trying desperately to lay down fresh, bright white paint. But the dark, oily, toxic residue of the past bleeds endlessly through the fibers, muddying your colors, turning every beautiful effort into a dull, lifeless, discouraging gray. Biologically, you are experiencing severe chronic dopamine depletion. When you carry the heavy, depressing context of past failures into a brand new task, your brain preemptively suppresses the release of dopamine. It accurately anticipates disappointment based on historical data. Without that vital neurochemical fuel, the new task feels physically heavier, your focus shatters into 1,000 pieces, and the cognitive load required just to type a single sentence becomes entirely overwhelming. This exact same destructive continuity poisons your relationships. You walk into a room to speak with someone you deeply care about, but you are not really talking to them. You are talking through the dense, distorted filters of everyone who has ever betrayed you. The coffee cup in your hand shakes slightly as you unconsciously wait for the betrayal. It feels like walking through a quiet, beautiful, sunlit room, watching dust motes dance peacefully in the warm shafts of light. But you are violently flinching at the slightest movement of a curtain, your heart racing, your palms sweating, because you vividly remember a terrifying, violent storm that shattered the glass and tore the roof off a decade ago. The sun is shining today, but your muscles are tightly braced for the breaking glass of yesterday. This is a severe amygdala hijacking combined with flawed predictive processing. Your nervous system fundamentally prioritizes threat detection over human connection. It ignores the safe, calm reality standing right in front of you, and it rapidly runs ancient, outdated scripts to protect a fragile, wounded version of yourself from the past. A version of you that no longer even exists. And worst of all is your own internal monologue. You speak to yourself in the dark, quiet hours of the night like an unforgiving, bitter, sadistic warden. It is a 3 a.m. interrogation where you are forced to play both the helpless victim and the ruthless torturer. It feels like sitting utterly alone in an empty, echoing, freezing courtroom, the harsh fluorescent lights buzzing above you, watching a cold, faceless judge slam a heavy wooden gavel down onto the block, over and over and over again. The sound cracks like a whip in total silence, sentencing you to a lifetime of suffocating guilt for petty, insignificant crimes you committed when you were young, confused, and simply trying to navigate a chaotic world. Physiologically, the default mode network in your brain has become trapped in an endless, agonizing, closed rumination loop. It burns an immense, unsustainable amount of your cognitive load just to maintain the complex, invisible architecture of your own shame. You are literally exhausting your brain's daily energy reserves to build a psychological prison for yourself. There is another way to live, but it requires stepping entirely away from the chaotic, deafening noise of modern hustle culture. The modern world tells you to build a towering, glittering skyscraper on top of a crumbling, rotted foundation, to push relentlessly through the exhaustion of your old identity, to hack your productivity, track your habits, and optimize your misery until you finally collapse. We quietly reject this. We look to the ancient philosophy of Tabula Rasa, the blank slate. Every single sunrise is a profound biological and philosophical reset. It is a quiet, beautiful mini-rebirth freely offered to you by the turning of the earth. It is the deep realization that you can completely, utterly reinvent yourself in the space of a single, slow breath. Your past does not dictate your future. It only dictates your present if you actively, foolishly choose to drag it with you into today. Imagine a dark, filthy, mud-caked city, a landscape filled with jagged trash, stained concrete, and the rusted-out shells of abandoned cars. It is ugly, noisy, and broken. But overnight, while the exhausted city sleeps, a silent, beautiful, violent winter storm rolls in. Millions upon millions of perfectly formed snowflakes fall from the black sky, burying the noise. By morning, the landscape is utterly transformed. The ugly, broken shapes of the past are entirely buried under a flawless, silent, blindingly white layer of fresh snow. The landscape is pristine and unmarked. The dirt is gone. The world is quiet. It demands a completely new footprint. This is the applied psychology of radical identity shifting. When you consciously, deliberately sever the emotional tie to who you were yesterday, you instantly lower your circulating cortisol levels. You send a powerful, undeniable biological signal to your prefrontal cortex that the environment has fundamentally changed. The danger has passed. This profound shift allows completely new neural pathways to form without the violent, dragging friction of old emotional anchors. You step out into the fresh snow and you leave the deep mud entirely behind. So, what do you actually do with this truth today? Your hypervigilant brain will immediately try to convince you that this concept is a dangerous, lazy lie. It will tell you that you cannot simply walk away from your history. It will scream loudly in your ear that you must pay a heavy, daily tax for yesterday's laziness, yesterday's failures, and yesterday's careless words. That is the trauma talking. That is the desperate, pathetic clinging to the familiar pain. Do not listen to it. Your action for today is ridiculously, beautifully simple. I want you to explicitly, verbally forgive your past self for yesterday's mistakes. Start today completely from zero. Zero expectations based on past failures. zero guilt. This is not just a pleasant, fleeting thought. It is a definitive physical action. It feels exactly like taking a lit match to a thick, heavy, leather-bound ledger book. A cursed book where you have meticulously, obsessively recorded every single debt you owe to yourself over the last 10 years. You drop the match. You watch the bright flame catch the dry paper. You watch the pages curl, turn brittle, and turn deep ashen black, before finally floating away into the cold night air as weightless dust. The immense debt is forgiven. The book is gone. By taking this one micro-action, by completely externalizing the heavy guilt and explicitly releasing it into the void, you immediately reduce your overwhelming cognitive load. You literally, biologically free up vast amounts of working memory in your brain that was actively being consumed by background anxiety and low-level shame. You finally give your exhausted brain the quiet space to breathe. You are not the tragic mistakes you made on a random Tuesday. You are not the deep, paralyzing exhaustion you felt all through last year. You are the quiet, steady, rhythmic breath you take right now, in this exact, fleeting moment. You are a completely blank, perfect page in a heavy journal. The white paper is crisp and clean. The dark ink is waiting patiently in the pen. You, and only you, get to decide what the first word will be today. Stay unrushed.